Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. The foreign ministers of Pakistan, Turkey and Azerbaijan have expressed concerns over growing human rights violations in occupied Kashmir. At a trilateral meeting in Islamabad, the three sides pledged to form a joint strategy to counter Islamophobia and terrorism. The meeting held Pakistan's positive role in the Afghan peace process and vowed to promote stability and development in the region. Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu called on Prime Minister Imran Khan in Islamabad, where the two sides discussed regional and international issues. Khan hailed Turkey's support on the Kashmir issue and said Indian actions are posing a threat to peace and security in the region. They also reaffirmed resolve to bolster bilateral cooperation in different areas, including trade and defense. The U.S. House of Representatives is debating the article of impeachment against President Donald Trump. The House will vote later to impeach Trump on charges of inciting his supporters to storm the Capitol last week. The U.S. death toll from COVID-19 has hit a new daily record of nearly 4,500, while its death tally has topped 380,000. China has reported 150 new infections, the highest daily increase in more than 5 months. Meanwhile, Pakistan has registered over 2,100 new cases and 55 more deaths, with the toll at 10,772. Globally, the virus has claimed 1.96 million lives and infected over 91 million people so far. And in tennis, Aryna Sabalenka has won the WTA 500 event in Abu Dhabi after beating Russia's Veronika Kudermetova in straight sets in the final. With the victory, the Belarusian has extended her winning streak to 15 matches. It was a third title victory in a row and 9th overall. Those were the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now with the news in detail. Pakistan, Turkey and Azerbaijan have expressed concerns over growing human rights violations in occupied Kashmir. The foreign ministers of the three countries were speaking to the media after a meeting in Islamabad. They vowed to jointly tackle all common challenges at regional and international levels. More in this report.
Islamabad is hosting the second round of trilateral dialogue between Pakistan, Turkey and Azerbaijan. The first round was held in Baku back in 2017. Today, the forum pledged to form a joint strategy to counter the threats of rising Islamophobia and terrorism. The forum also appreciated Pakistan's positive role in the peace process in Afghanistan. At a joint press conference, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi hailed Turkey and Azerbaijan's steadfast support on the Kashmir dispute.
I informed my friends and colleagues in detail on the evolving situation and the dire situation of human rights violations in the occupied Kashmir, prolonged military siege, deliberate, illegal and unilateral actions to make demographic changes in Kashmir.
Turkey's Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu expressed full solidarity with Kashmiris braving Indian atrocities. He also voiced concerns over the humanitarian crisis in the occupied valley.
We express our full solidarity with our Kashmiri brothers and sisters in the face of worsening human rights situation and demographic change, especially in the last 2 years. we believe unilateral steps complicate the situation further. We reaffirm our concerns and expectations, which was also addressed recently within the OIC and during the OIC ministerial meeting in Niger.
Azerbaijan's Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov thanks Pakistan for its support on the Nagorno-Karabakh dispute.
We highly appreciated this principled position taken by Turkey and Pakistan. It was a position of real good friends and true partners, and Azerbaijani nation appreciated this. During the victory celebration, people in Azerbaijan were proudly waving Turkish and Pakistani flags.
The three foreign ministers also vowed to extend cooperation in different areas, including trade and defense. The next round of the trilateral dialogue will be held in Turkey.
Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu called on Prime Minister Imran Khan in Islamabad, where the two sides discussed regional and international issues. Khan hailed Turkey's support on the Kashmir issue and said Indian actions are posing threat to peace and security in the region. The Prime Minister also highlighted Pakistan's positive contribution to the Afghan peace process. They also reaffirmed a resolve to bolster cooperation in different areas, including trade and defense. He called on all the parties in Afghanistan to reduce violence. The Prime Minister also stressed the need to combat Islamophobia. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi was also present during the meeting. The hundreds of thousands of farmers protesting in India have once again refused consultations with the government. It comes a day after the top court halted the implementation of the new farm laws and called for setting up a committee to address the grievances. The farmers' leaders say the nominated committee members are pro-government. The farmers' union said all the members of the committee have publicly advocated the laws. They said the committee is a distraction and they have reiterated their demand for repeal of the laws. As the agitation enters its 50th day, it involves around 250 million protesters, with many more standing in solidarity with Indian farmers globally. Human Rights Watch has called on US President-elect Joe Biden to be tough on India's rights record. In an interview, the head of the rights body urged Biden to criticize Indian Prime Minister Modi over his policy towards Muslims. Kenneth Roth also urged the president-elect to call off arms sales to countries such as Egypt and Israel. He said Biden needs to restore Washington's credibility on human rights at home and abroad. Roth added that President Donald Trump has been a complete disaster for human rights, but Trump has denied responsibility for the violence and past allegations of violating human rights. Israel has launched an air assault on Deir al-Zor and Abu Kamal cities in southeastern Syria. The Syrian state media said the results of the aggression are currently being verified. Meanwhile, Israeli media reports say the raids killed at least 5 Syrian soldiers and 11 allied fighters. They said the raids targeted Syrian military's armed depots and positions. The latest assault is the second wave of Israeli raids in Syria in less than a week. Earlier, Israeli warplanes targeted sites near the Lebanon-Syria border in Al-Zabadani and Mesaf. Iran's Navy has begun a short-range missile drill in the Gulf of Oman. This comes amid heightened tensions over Tehran's nuclear program and a U.S. pressure campaign against the country. The state media said the 2-day drill is being held in the Gulf's southeastern waters, with 2 new Iranian-made warships joining the exercise. In recent weeks, Iran has ramped up its military drills. On Saturday, the Revolutionary Guards held a naval parade in the Arabian Gulf. And a week earlier, Iran held a drone maneuver across half the country. On Tuesday, the U.S. accused Iran of having secret ties with Al-Qaeda, charges Tehran denies. Meanwhile, Russia has criticized U.S. accusations about Iran having ties with Al-Qaeda as baseless. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zamir Kabulov said this is another attempt by the outgoing U.S. administration to hurt Tehran. Kabulov said the U.S. accusations are unreasonable and without evidence. Earlier, Iran refuted the comments by the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Foreign Minister Javad Zarif dubbed the allegations of warmongering lines. Pompeo had accused Iran of being involved in planning the September 11 terrorist attacks. He alleged Iran was hosting a new base for Al-Qaeda. Russia's proposed inclusion of the UK and France in the New START nuclear arms control treaty. Moscow says it is ready to discuss extension of the treaty with the upcoming U.S. administration under Joe Biden. The Russian ambassador to the U.S. said the extension will give time for comprehensive bilateral talks on future control over nuclear weapons. Anatoly Antonov said the 5-year period will be used to maintain the level of transparency in the U.S.-Russia strategic relations. The New START treaty is the last nuclear arms control agreement between Russia and the U.S., and it will expire in February 2021 if not extended. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has called for increased military power and greater nuclear war deterrence. Kim said this at the conclusion of the ruling party's rare Congress amid stalled nuclear talks with the U.S. Kim said North Korea needs to do everything in order to build the most powerful military. Earlier in the Congress, he said U.S. policy will not change towards the country, whoever comes in power. Meanwhile, Kim's sister, Kim Yo-jong, criticized South Korea's military for monitoring a parade in Pyongyang. She said that such close tracking proved Seoul's hostile approach towards its neighbor. The U.S. House of Representatives is debating the article of impeachment against President Donald Trump. The House will vote later to impeach Trump on charges of inciting his supporters to storm the Capitol last week. If Trump is impeached in the House, the Senate will then hold a trial. A 2/3 majority is required to convict him. It comes after Vice President Mike Pence rejected efforts to invoke the 25th Amendment to strip Trump of power. And for more on this, we are joined by political analyst Kelvin Dog from the United States. Mr. Dog, thank you for joining into Indus News. As the Democrat-led House pushes for Trump's impeachment for the second time, so what is the likelihood of Trump's conviction before his presidential term expires on January the 20th?
Well, I think it's a foregone conclusion that it will be, of course, passed in the House. So I think he will be the only president to be impeached twice. I think one of the strongest messages that we're going to see is how many Republicans in the House sign on to it. I believe in the last impeachment, there weren't any in the House. Now, when it comes to the Senate side, I think it is less likely there will be a conviction that he will be removed. But this is also a very different situation, and I wouldn't say that it's impossible. But like the House, what will be more interesting than, or almost as interesting as the verdict of convicting him or not in the Senate, will be how many Republicans in the Senate decide to take a stand and vote for it. So that'll be almost as telling as if they get the 2/3 to convict and remove.
So, Mr. Dog, Trump insists that his speech prior to the Capitol Hill riots was totally appropriate. So what's your say on this?
Well, he's lying, but also everything he does, from the Ukrainian call to any action he says is perfect. And he says they all said it was perfect, never tells us who they are. It's clear, and you can't, there's a lot of talk about, there's rhetoric and there's incitement to violence. But if you listen to what he said, I don't know how much more explicit he can be. He directed them to go down to the Capitol and that they had to be stronger than they were and had to take back their country. And it's not as if this was a new thing for Donald Trump. He's been saying that, tweeting that, not anymore, for months. So he says that because he can never be in the wrong, but it doesn't make what he says true, because it's not.
Thank you, Mr. Dog, for speaking to Indus News. And now moving on, in Somalia, the army says it has killed 8 Al-Shabaab militants in the country's southern Geda region. A top commander said the forces also destroyed many bases used by the militants. This comes a day after 7 Kenyan troops were killed when a bomb targeted their vehicles in southern Somalia. They were serving under African Union peacekeeping mission forces in Somalia. The attack prompted Somalia to beef up security and scout for the attackers in the south. The Al-Shabaab militants frequently carry out bombings to undermine Somalia's central government. It's time for a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The U.S. has hit a new record of daily deaths with nearly 4,500 fatalities overnight. And the nationwide death toll has crossed 380,000. China reported its biggest daily surge in more than 5 months with 115 new infections. Globally, the virus has claimed 1.96 million lives and infected 91 million people so far. More in this report.
As cases of COVID-19 continue to surge worldwide, Canada's most populous province of Ontario has again issued stay-at-home orders. In the United States, the last responders or staff in California's funeral homes are registering the highest number of coronavirus-linked deaths since the pandemic began. The U.S. Infectious Diseases Society says states need more money, and they need it quickly to speed up the rollout of vaccines. Meanwhile, Argentina has successfully concluded clinical trials for a hyperimmune serum against COVID-19 developed with antibodies from horses. Developers of the serum say its mass distribution will begin over the next few days.
Following the development in Argentina, we have already been in contact with several Latin American countries, and we are looking at boosting capacity. We believe that in March we will have 100,000 vials per month. We are also looking at possibilities of producing outside the country with the transfer of technology if there is a plant that has the same processes and capacity to do it.
Scientists have warned that mutations in the variant first spotted in South Africa might decrease vaccine efficacy, while the World Health Organization says the variant first discovered in Britain has spread to at least 50 more countries. It says scientists need to collect and sequence samples of the virus to help the world detect dangerous new mutations. In the Netherlands, the lockdown has been extended by 3 weeks, while Germany's hard lockdown is also likely to last further 8 to 10 weeks. Meanwhile, at a biodiversity summit, British Prime Minister blamed the pandemic on a demented belief in traditional medicine.
Don't forget that the coronavirus pandemic was the product of an imbalance in man's relationship with the natural world, like the original plague that struck the Greeks.
In the meantime, China's Sinovac vaccine was found to just be 50.38% effective in late-stage trials in Brazil, significantly lower than earlier reported. In Australia, Queensland has ordered hundreds of residents to restart their quarantine over fears of the spread of the UK variant.
In Pakistan, 55 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. This takes the country's death toll to over 10,772. The health ministry reported 2,123 infections overnight. It says there are more than 33,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. The ministry said out of over 508,000 countrywide cases, more than 464,000 people have recovered. Meanwhile, the phase 1 trials of China's Sinopharm vaccine are in their final stage in the southern port city of Karachi. A Russian opposition leader, Alexei Navalny, says he plans to return to his country this weekend. The 44-year-old Kremlin critic said he has booked a flight that will arrive in Moscow on Sunday. In a video message, Navalny said he went to Germany because of the attack and not by choice. Navalny said he is almost healthy after the poisoning and can continue recovering back home in Russia. He has been in Germany since late August after he fell violently ill on a flight from Siberia to Moscow. Western experts concluded that he was poisoned with a Soviet-designed nerve agent Novichok. But the Kremlin has denied claims that Navalny was poisoned by Russian authorities. In Italy, the biggest organized crime trial in decades against hundreds of alleged members of the country's most powerful mafia has started. The 'Ndrangheta group is charged for controlling Europe's supply of cocaine, as well as murder, extortion, and disclosure of official secrets. The over 300 suspected mobsters and corrupt officials were charged following a long inquiry into the group. In the trials, over 900 witnesses are expected to testify and give evidence against the mafia. The mafia trial, largest in Italy since the 1980s, is expected to last for more than 2 years. It is taking place in a specially modified building in the southern region of Calabria, which is at the heart of 'Ndrangheta territory. In New Zealand, police say a man smashed glass door of Parliament's main entrance with an axe. Officials said the perpetrator, however, did not try to enter the building. Police said they were called to complex in the capital of Wellington after getting reports of the attack. The 31-year-old man was arrested in about 10 minutes. The man has been charged with intentional damage rather than possession of an offensive weapon. If found guilty, he could face up to 7 years in prison. After nearly a year of increased isolation for seniors brought on by the coronavirus pandemic, a French company hopes its autonomous and AI-driven robot will bring the relief many people desperately need.
Hi, Bridget. Your cooking class is scheduled for 6:30 p.m. Today is Sophie's birthday. Do you want to send her a message?
Yes, of course.
CareClever presented its latest version of the Cutie Companion robot this week at the Virtual Consumer Electronics Show. It is designed based on 3 pillars: social link, assistance, and a companion robot. The company designed and built the robot specifically for seniors. It proposes activities such as yoga, nature walks, and quizzes, uses voice recognition, and offers video calls and messaging via its Wi-Fi connection. But the main purpose is to just alleviate the loneliness that seniors can experience in the home or an assisted living facility. So far, the company has 30 Cutie robots in senior facilities and 10 in individual homes in France. The company is also branching out in the U.S. with 6 robots being tested in Connecticut. Cutie is sold for $6,000.
With the hope to reach Europe, hundreds of migrants use Bosnia's northwestern town of Behak as a hub. Sheltering in and around the city, they face snow and freezing weather. The report has more.
Since early 2018, Bosnia has become a transit route for thousands of migrants aiming to reach Europe. But it has become increasingly difficult to cross EU borders, and impoverished Bosnia has become a dead end for them. Bosnia houses some 8,000 migrants. About 6,000 are in camps around the capital Sarajevo and in the country's bordering city with Croatia. The International Organization for Migration says its mobile teams are helping around 1,000 people. IOM camp manager Natasha Omerovic reiterates that migrants are in dire need of basic humanitarian assistance.
People living in squats or those who are finding solutions in some deserted houses, devastated houses during the Bosnian War in here, are in the need of the basic humanitarian assistance. Those people do not have the possibility for regular food distributions to receive the food on a daily basis. They cannot seek for medical assistance.
Extreme winter cold is surging the miseries of the squatters. A 16-year-old migrant from Afghanistan has been sleeping in an abandoned bus for almost 6 months. He is desperately looking for help.
I was at the Sidra camp and then in Bira camp for 2 months. I have been sleeping in a bus for about 5 to 6 months now, and I'm living in really bad conditions. I'm in really a bad way. There is no one to look after us here, and the conditions are not safe here.
A group of migrants have found shelter in an abandoned house in Bihać. They have had a modest dinner cooked under a torchlight. They have no water and have to sleep on dirty concrete floors.
Many of migrants are living here in this cold weather. In this weather, because of the coldness, they doesn't have shoes and jackets and clothes. You can check out our sleeping place as well. So too dusty. And my problem is here to take a wash, no water, hot water, to take a wash. So
and for a shower.
For a shower. So for cooking as well, so problem.
The Bosnian authorities have provided heated military tents and beds to the migrants. However, the government is still unable to provide adequate assistance to all the migrants.
More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned. China says it will import more Indonesian products and increase investment in Southeast Asia's largest economy. Beijing's Foreign Minister Wang Yi said this during a meeting with his Indonesian counterpart Retno Marsudi in Jakarta. In a joint statement, the two sides vowed to bring more healthy and balanced growth of trade between China and Indonesia. Wang said China is prepared to support Indonesia on vaccine research, development and production. Well, Marsudi urged Beijing to remove barriers on Jakarta's top products, including palm oil, fisheries and fruits. The Chinese foreign minister is on the first leg of a two-day visit to Indonesia, which is part of a bigger tour of Southeast Asia. The World Bank has approved a $246 million loan for cash-strapped Lebanon. It has been approved to provide emergency assistance to nearly 800,000 Lebanese reeling under a severe economic crisis. In a statement, the World Bank said the loan will also support the development of a national social safety net in Lebanon. It said the loan will give cash assistance for a year to 147,000 extremely poor Lebanese households. The deepening crisis has depleted foreign reserves in Lebanon and sent the local currency tumbling. It has led to an estimated 19% decline in gross domestic product. Wall Street's stocks have opened flat as the market struggled for the direction of a second day amid political uncertainty. Investors weighed the prospect of fresh government spending against political turmoil in Washington. The indices of S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Average hung in the balance, while Nasdaq Composite traded 0.25% higher. Meanwhile, oil prices dropped despite a decline in the U.S. crude inventories. Now the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.